I always realize whenever I'm here, I know I'm a tourist, I'm not from here, but I'm trying to also make sense of everywhere I'm going. So realizing that if I go to Inglewood, that's the hood. I know I need to, like, but again, being a Brit here, no one finds me threatening with this accent.
No,
no one. No one. I could go anywhere.
You proper.
You gotta give him them Top Boy vibes. You gotta have everything in it.
Now, I love English humor. Like,
yeah, man. Yeah,
You do
yeah.
the version that's like the version of English humor that's contemporary 2024.
Yeah, thank you.
And using words and shit that I guess Americans are getting used to through grime and through different rap.
Yeah, man.
But do you think about how your comedy is going to transform to Americans? Like, 'cause some of your bits, like even words you use
bit.
or how you describe a restaurant or something, it doesn't always translate. Do you think about that?
No, do you know what? I think for me it's interesting because a lot of my humor is it's what I see. So a lot of it's from my perspective where I'm talking about my upbringing and my family. And again, sometimes the beautiful thing is in the black community, we've all lived the same experience, but we're just saying it in a different way, in a different translation. And I've realized that by performing more here, is that sometimes it might be the words that might be I'll tell you the biggest one was, I was doing a show and I said, is it me, but what's the problem with TSA? Why do they take your creams? We call it creams in the UK. Well, over here, you guys call it lotions.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
That's not like he going like a mother. That sound like some real pain. He over there taking his cream. That shit sound wild, B. Balls. That sound bananas, right? Yo, he was in the locker room taking his cream.
That's what I meant. But that's what I'm saying. Like, that's hard to do to make that translation.
But you know what? What's funny about that? I done a show here about 2 years ago, and I tell this story about, you go to TSA or the UK, they take our creams, and normally it gets a laugh in the UK. But here, no one was laughing. So then, as a comic, you know when, like, I guess you must have the same thing as an artist when you're performing, and you might say something, you're like, right, that normally
Crickets?
that normally gets a reaction. So I realized it wasn't getting a reaction. A friend of mine who's from here, he's like, yeah, man, we don't use the word creams. Like creaming sounds like jerking off. So I said, oh, lotions. I get it.
So you made the switch?
So when I was here recently, I had a show in, I think it's LA. So I said lotions and it got the laugh. But I think that's the beautiful thing with comedy is that you got to remember that the universal language of comedy is haha, is laughing. Everyone laughs the same way. But it's just trying to tweak it into different languages that make it make sense.
But that's my point. That must be hard, though.
Do you know what it is? But it gets easier because I feel like you have to understand the landscape of where you are. So I always realize whenever I'm here, I know I'm a tourist, I'm not from here, but I'm trying to also make sense of everywhere I'm going. So realizing that if I go to Inglewood, that's the hood. I know I need to, like, but again, being a Brit here, no one finds me threatening with this accent. No one. I could go anywhere.
You proper.
You gotta give him them Top Boy vibes. You gotta have everything in it.
I swear to you, I could go anywhere, and people are like, hey man, where you from? And I'm like, I'm from London. Oh, you good? You all right? You good? But again, that's the beautiful thing that I get to tell within my story of comedy. Do you know what I mean? I get to tell that story that no one finds my accent threatening here. So it's almost like you get a pass everywhere you go, but I get to
you sound
travel.
smart as a motherfucker.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
You smart. That's
especially when I hit it with some big words as well. If I use words like preposterous and stuff, people like, Oh,
what is grime? What is grime comedy? What does that mean, grime comedy?
Nah, it's not really a concept. I think like grime is just like the music side of it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
So why do they say grime?
It's not really a thing. That's what you said, isn't it?
No, I was saying, like when you say in it, it's like
Oh, I see.
the language is like.
Yeah, it's
no, what I was saying was, people in America through grime music and through Top Boy, there are words that you will use.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That we will now get, like you guys say, mans. That was not a thing in America until grime and Top Boy. People started watching like, yo,
Bruv is another one.
Bruv is another one. But you guys say like, mans ain't hungry. Like, that wasn't something.
Hungry,
we didn't say that shit before grime and Top Boy. So I was saying those.
We say your man's in them.
Your man's in them, yes. But they say man's referring to themselves.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our slang comes from a lot of Jamaican culture as well. So a lot of our slang is that from Jamaican culture, and it's we kind of interpret it a different way a little bit as well. But again, that's like the beautiful thing with like a Top Boy is that realizing the world is a smaller place, and it's just like, oh, there is a hood there in in London, just how there is. Do you know what I
Exactly.
mean? But I think the difference is with the US, you guys are great at exporting your arts and your talent across the world, which is like the benchmark a little bit. So I know about places here that I shouldn't go to, as opposed to where you guys wouldn't know. Do you know what I mean?
Americans don't know about Peckham, where you're from, right?
Yeah.
But Peckham is just like, tell us about Peckham.
That's what I mean. Like Peckham, it's weird now because it's going through that gentrification phase.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, you know, you need to be
Brixton?
careful where you go. Yeah, Brixton again is another area, but again, it's going through its that kind of gentrification. But again, it's like if you're there, you know how to carry yourself. You know, after 2 a.m. and you start seeing the man them on the bikes and they're hooded up, you're like, time to go. Do you know what I mean? Like,
But to your point, I've always said America's biggest export is black culture. That idea of taking black culture and exporting it all over the world. So people know about Inglewood or things in the show all over the world, they know.
Yeah.
But it's starting to happen out of the UK a bit too now.
Yeah,
right?
man. I think, you know, you look at like what's happening with different forms of music, whether it's like Afro beats or, you know, you have New York drill and you have London drill now. So again, it's like the same sounds, but it's just changing in different pockets. You know, you're going to your point about how American culture has impacted the world. I went to Japan. And, you know, if any of you've probably been to Japan, you go to Japan and they've got like a whole section in Osaka where it's just hip hop inspired, like with clothing, the music, the records and stuff. So it is happening. I think social media's helped that in some ways to know that like people are understanding other parts of the world. Do you know what I mean? That you wouldn't necessarily know about. I think that's the beautiful thing. And it's helped me for comedy. Like having a Netflix special was the only reason why I can really do shows here, because Americans will come and then they say, I've seen you on Netflix. If that social media Netflix wasn't about, I wouldn't have the impact I have over here.
And as a black comic there's been a lot of white comics from the UK that got massive, like huge. I don't know of any massive do you think about that as a black comic from the UK?
I think sometimes, but funny is funny.
Of course.
You know what I mean? I think, you know, as long as I come here and people laugh at the stuff, then that's all I really need. And again, it's always making sure I'm understanding where I am. So if I'm in, you know, I go to New York, it's understanding the boroughs, whether it's New York, you got Queens and you got Harlem. I think it's like, if you understand where you are, you can be funny in that place. But also I want to give my audience, this is where I'm from, this is who I am. Again, the whole cream and lotion thing. Again, I get that's material for me. Do you know what I mean?
You can actually use that as
All that stuff about, you know, my accent and how as soon as I speak, you gotta remember.
Where am I? Just where am I?
Yeah, bro, yeah. Like you gotta remember, like when I'm here, as soon as I speak, whether it's black Americans or white Americans, they're so interested. Black Americans are like, hey man, where you from? Like I went to the gym. I went to the gym and everyone's like, man, you got an accent. I say, yeah, man, yeah. Where you from? I say, I'm from London. Man, I love London, man. And again, it creates that lovely, again, he just wants to have a conversation. But then white Americans, again, they'll be like, oh my God, you're from Europe? Wow, I've been to Barcelona. It's amazing. And I'm like, that's nowhere near London.
Yeah, that's
from America,
But again,
I've been to Montreal.
Yeah, man. But I think that's the coolest thing about getting to come over here and do stand-up is it's my perspective from a black Brit. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because I feel like, you know, the way I dress, I walk around the street and no one expects this accent to come out of this mouth. But I think that's what I've discovered about getting to perform and do stand-up here is like you find like your way in. Do you know what I mean? The minute if I start talking and pretending to say words that I'm like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? You go grocery store, you guys automatically gonna be like, nah, it's fake. I don't believe it. Do you know what I mean? You want my authentic self, but also understand or see, be like, oh, I'd never seen it from his point of view.